Well, hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my workbench and World of Modeling. Dan here, as always, and in this video we're going to be covering some more projects that I've worked on. Lately I've had a little bit more time indoors compared to outdoors because I've been able to work on some of these projects just because the weather outside has been kind of crappy. We've had a lot of snow, a lot of very cold weather, and it's just been too cold to work on the garage. So I've been completing some bigger projects like some custom built cars that I got going on. I got this locomotive done, and I'm in the process of building two HLCX leasers, one for a customer and one for me. But I'll show those later when they're actually a little bit more complete. Maybe by the next update we'll pull them out. But this is the first one I've worked on, and this is a CEFX SD40M-3. These are very common locomotives you used to see on CSX, and then later CP Rail, and then later back on CSX in the 2015-2016 era of rail fanning. Anyways, these locomotives were rebuilt from SD45s. And most of them are pretty similar. Some of them were XSP, some of them XUP, some of them X Santa Fe, I believe. And so there's some subtle variations, but for the most part they're all very similar. This one is 3142, and you can see this one does not have the nose light. It's not an XSP unit. With this one, what I did was I got the Athearn RTR unit. I stripped it down, completely repainted it from the ground up. I added all these road-specific details like the 3D printed ditch light castings there. I got the receptacles, new air hoses, new coupler, custom plow, MU cables, all that good stuff. Removed the class lights on the nose in preparation for the decal application. Those are the reflective stripes that they put on these locomotives. I added the new nose vent there, installed that and patched that according to the photos. Did the anti-skid tread paint there on the nose, and you can see it's chipping away, which is pretty cool. Got the number boards all done up, LED lighting in there. I switched to the LED bulbs that Athearn's doing now, so I pulled these out of another project locomotive. I added the conduit, the antennas on the roof, the AC unit cover plate there, and then it has the horn, which is now a K5, a 5-chime horn mounted on the back there, and I also added the lift rings to this one. Another interesting feature on this locomotive is this weird 3-piece grill. I don't know where this came from, but this is on the real unit, and I modeled that with some styrene. Didn't have to cut the grill off, I just simply modified it, spliced some styrene pieces in there, and then glued it in place and painted it with the model. You can see it's got all the specific details on the trucks, like the air lines. I added the air dryers and things like that. This one has the exposed height bearing caps, as you can see, which is pretty cool. So I added those with some details west parts. They don't spin on this one. I just couldn't get them to work well for this SD45, so I ended up just using the stock. And then you can see I did the sill. This is a white reflective tape with the yellow tape over that. I used highball graphics and microscale decals to decal this thing up. All the road specific and appropriate fuel tank details. Lots of grime and washes on the hood. Again, the road specific bearing cap arrangement on the trucks. This one has all 3 bearing covers removed. Airlines on the truck. You got the waste retention tank. Again, all the specific details, the replaced brake wheel, you know, things like that. You got the lift rings, things like that, the replacement fan. Lots of heavy fading and paint chipping on the roof. This is, again, prototypical, so there's a lot of bleaching, a lot of grime, darkened the grills, got some exhaust. Just the usual, but it all came out really good. This was all done in various different processes. On the back of this locomotive, we have, again, the specific details. We have the light arrangement there. This one actually still had the class light covers on the back. Those were not removed, so you can see I kept them on this engine because the plates are there on the real locomotive. The only thing I did was I removed the number boards. You can see those have been removed and replaced with the stencil style numbers. And again, I got the custom lift rings there on the top of the flared radiator hood. And again, there's those pilot details. Love the pilot details. I added all of these. Some of them I made from scratch, and then others are stock details. I just kept the MU cables, for example, but I added new ditch lights, couple of lift bars, the drop step, the MU receptacles, all that good stuff, and of course the jumper cable. So that all looks very good. And on this side, to complete this little walk around here, again, really nice truck detail. You can see I added the piping there on the fuel tank. It's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see it. If we look at the inside of the fuel tank, you can see there's all that grime and kick-up spray and everything else. That's something I like to do on all these engines. And as we look at the front, again, just overall nice little bits of detail on the trucks. You got the exposed bearings, the speed recorder, which has been replaced, the open cab door, open window, and all the other little specific patch details, rust details, all kinds of cool little effects to bring this model together. But this was one that turned out really well, and I'm very happy with it. I will do another one of these maybe this summer. Hopefully it'll be an XSP prototype, but I got some more locomotives to work on, so we'll see if we actually get around to it this year. Alright, now I told you guys in the last video I was working on some CSX style railguns, and I've definitely saved the absolute best for last here. These are some of the best cars that came out. This one in the back is the last one I officially did. And then this one, and then this one was actually first. I just got this one done with the load. So we're going to go ahead and start here. This is the CSX-T 708-531, and basically with this, what I used was an Athearn railgun straight out of the box. I repaneled the sides with 0.5-inch styrene, which is very thin. I beat it up with a toothpick, a dental pick, a hobby knife to get these individual little dents, scrapes, and gouges. I glue the panels in place, repaint the car, just the black portions, not the yellow. And then I added the road-specific patching in gray here. I did all the oil effects. You got the different kinds of safety striping added, older and newer. It's starting to peel off. You can see there's some primer patches where they did some repairs or something. I got the new details that I added there. Lots of good truck weathering. It's got the full underbody detailing, all the brake chain, retainers, all that. That was all modified from scratch to match the prototype. And you can see again all those very, very nice individual dented panels. If we look at the end here, again, some really unique details. I added a couple lift bars to all these. The walkways are photo etched, new brake wheel, air hoses, new couplers, which are KDs. And overall, just they look really good. You can see the sun has a bunch of mud splatter caked on the side. Got a little graffiti, and then it has the custom scrap load. Added the new top cord to this one as well. You can see it's got that. That's a big help to making these models look a lot better, is just adding a new top cord, because the ones stock out of the box from Athearn are very, very thin and very unrealistic. So just upgrading that detail made it look a lot better. On the ends, you can see these all have a lot of unique different patch variations for stenciling and stuff. You can see you got all the rust pits and everything, and then the very interesting CSX stenciling where they redid the numbers several times apparently. That's a unique feature, and all of them again are very different. You know, CSX does it 100 different ways. There's no standardized way of doing this. On this side, the prototype picture side that I had, I just again copied all of the data, artwork, and weathering according to the photos. You got the mud splatter on the trucks and everything, chipped up safety striping, and again you can see just the attention to the detail on the warped panels, some graffiti. Overall, nice attention to detail there. For the panels, how I weather these is I take and do a grime wash first, and then I come back with raw umber oil, and I just scrape it across it. I do some fine streaks, and then I come back and add powders with a micro brush to add some finer little effects, and then I'll streak that down and blend it together, and that's how you create that effect. It's very simple, very easy to do, but it comes out really good. So that's the CSX-T 708-531, one of my personal favorites. This one is very cool. This is a CSX repaint, and a lot of these were repainted in the 90s, but the majority of them are not repainted, so you have these variations. This one is a repaint, like I said, and this one is a severe sagger. So I chose a prototype that I'd actually seen that had very severe center sagging, which was something we talked about in the last video. Some of these cars are very severely sagged from years of service. There we go. And what I had to do with this one is I put it in my clamp, I put it in boiling water, set it up, and then I basically forced the warpage by applying a little bit of pressure, and I put a large block in the center of the car to force it down as it was compressed in between two clamps. And I put it in boiling water several times until I got it to the desired amount of warp. And again, this is what the prototype looks like. It's actually warped like this. When you look down the side, you can see how severe that sagging is. So if we look at it again, I added the new end panels. That's 0.5-inch styrene. It's all bent up, warped out, end details. I added the prototype safety stripe arrangement, the new panels on the side. This one has the specific rivet panel seam that this prototype had. It has a slightly different underbody detail arrangement according to the prototype photos. It's a slightly different model of railgun. It was built by someone else. I believe this is a Greenville model railgun. The others that I have are Thralls. So this one is again 486879. It's just again modeled from really just memory, and then I used photos of other cars in this same number range to kind of piece things together. So I did like the safety stripe arrangement. You got the ease up decals, all that's been added. Lots of good truck weathering. The interior is nicely weathered up. You can see there's lots of grime and rust effects. You got a lot of load spillage in the center that's just kind of left over. Beat up CSX logo, and again on the ends you can see that warpage on the end panel where it's starting to bulge out, which is pretty cool. And then you can also see the re-stenciled CSX lettering there, which is something that you see a lot on these cars. And then on this side, got a little bit of graffiti to add a little bit of interest, a little bit of, you know, a little flavor. It's got some mud splatter there, just here and there, little areas with some cool little effects to just break the monotony of things. It's got the primer patches for the safety striping, the beat up CSX logo, which I can zoom in here and you can really see that detail. going all out with that. Looks good. As we move down, you can see the variations in the weathering, fresher rust patches, some spillage, things like that. So that's another one of my personal favorites. This one turned out awesome. It's a lot more work to get these to warp, and then trying to do this without damaging the car is extremely hard. I actually ruined 2 railguns trying to do this, and this was the only one that came out good. And even still, I had to kind of reheat the sides a little bit as I was working with it, just to soften things up and push things back out, because what will often happen is the sides will actually shrink in. So you got to be careful when you're doing it that you don't leave it in hot water too long when you're doing this. Down the road, I'll make a video on how I do this effect. It's a little complicated, but it's relatively easy to do. I mean, it's not the hardest thing to do, is what I should say. So we'll come back to this topic later, but that's the CSXT railgun, the full repaint. And then the last one is the one I just finished, and it is a B&O car. And CSX has 2 versions of these. They have the B&O and the CNO, or actually 3. They also have the SBD version, so the Seaboard patched version of these cars, where they're just owned by different trustees, and they're running under that road number and road name. So this one is 350688, and this one has the very unique patch lettering that I modeled. It's got some graffiti, but otherwise the same effects and techniques that I used on all the other cars. This one has the specific weld seam at the bottom, which I added with styrene, very thin pieces of styrene. I added all the details, all the rust. New top cord, lots of grime and mud on the trucks. These usually do get very muddy. You can see the mud splat on the side. It's got the railgun lettering, but you can actually see that the Rail Pooling Experts is completely gone. And then you got the new data. Lots of heavy work on the yellow. Some primer patches here and there, which is cool. You got the full load on the interior, and then again another cool variation of lettering on the exterior. On the end you can see all the scraping, all the new end details added, and then the specific style stencil lettering, which is pretty cool. And then we have this side with some graffiti effects. Again, you can see the variation in the patching. It's a little bit different on this side. You got some splatter and all kinds of little rust spots, all kinds of cool little effects to really tie this one together. I really like the railgun logo. That came out awesome. And then this one is again another warper, so when you look down the side of it, you can see it's sagging in the center, just like the real one. Pretty cool. Pretty damn cool, I have to say. So as you look at that, you can see that center sag. That's a crucial thing. If you're wanting to model a prototype railgun, you gotta sag them. It doesn't look right when they're completely flush and level, and then you beat the crap out of them, because they all have the sag to a basically a varying degree. So that's all 3 of the railguns, and if I actually bring in the others here for you guys to see, you can see what I've accomplished. And this was again all done really in a matter of about a month. I got all these cars completed, and this is my modern fleet of CSX railguns currently. You can see they all look really cool. They all look really well together, and I'm very, very pleased with all these cars. I just got to take some pictures of them and post them around a little bit. Okay, so I got a couple new Autorecs to show you guys, and these are all out of the Intermountain new release, which are very, very, very nice cars. I really like these. The original ones had issues with the panels warping, but they've actually fixed the channeling on these cars now where you can put the panel in and it doesn't warp out, which is nice. So I was very pleased with the one I had originally bought, just kind of as a test to see if they were, you know, decent and worth the price. And I ended up liking it enough, and it happened to be this car, that I decided to keep it and buy some more. So this one is the first one I actually did, and I got quite a few of these now, and I'm about to buy some more from the brand new release that's coming out. This is a Providence and Worcester car. These are very, very beautiful models, and I personally love the prototypes. So with this, these aren't too badly weathered, so all I had to do with this is really focus on the grime on the underbody, like the kick-up spray and everything else. I weathered the trucks, did some very light washes down the side, I added the little streaks, added the safety striping. Just dulled down the roof just a little bit, but really, again, I really didn't have to do too much out of the box. I did do a little bit of heavy weathering on the ends, that streaking and stuff like that, because the prototype had that. I just did that effect with some oils. And then on this side, same thing. It's a little bit more prominent. You can see those rust streaks starting at the seams, all working down there. Again, I like these cars. I think the doors could be a little bit better. I just don't like how they don't really stick together. You can see they kind of bend quite easy. And if you actually put these on their side, these doors will go flying. So how I remedied this was I actually tack glued the base of the door and the top of the door on the track, because I'm not planning on modeling these with open doors, because honestly I don't really need to. So I just glued them in place, and that solved the problem. And then of course, you know, you just weather it up like normal, and that solved the problem for me. So not a deal breaker for me personally. Now this side has the cool graffiti, which I modeled from photos. This is all hand painted with acrylic. It's a little hard working around these panels, so basically what I had to do is I hand painted each individual piece of graffiti here and then just filled in the tags and everything like that, all the backgrounds, color backgrounds, re-stenciled the reporting marks, and then I had to go back with a needle and poke out all these holes again. Anyways, the ones that were blocked up with paint, I just poked the holes back out with a needle to clear them, and you can see it's once again completely see-through. So it looks pretty nice. So there's this one here, which is a nice modern in-service car. Really like that one. Now the next one is a CN car, and I'll go ahead and bring this one into shot here. This is the second one I bought, a CN version. Again, another white car. So this one has pretty much the same level of weathering as before. It's just got some white washes down the sides, using some powder and things like that. It's got some rust streaking starting. It's got some tags. It's got the new fresh graffiti here, which has already been re-stenciled over on the reporting mark. They put safety striping back over it. Basically, when they did the artwork, he masked over the J plate and then the load limit decal there. That's something a lot of these artists will do, so I modeled that by just painting around that to make it look like how the artist would normally do that kind of thing. And then it's again just got the cool looking graffiti all the way down the side of the car. Again, just some nice weathering on the ends overall. And then this side has the really cool graffiti. I found a prototype picture of this car with this kind of graffiti, and again, just modeled it best I could off of a Flickr. And you can see it's just, again, individually hand painted very carefully. This took about 6 to 7 hours total to do. It's a lot of work. And then I just went back and added the safety striping over it, weathered over it, added the re-stencil there, and things like that. And then I could just, you know, just did a little bit of other tag work here and there. Got some rust starting on the seams, just at the very top of the hood there. But otherwise, pretty simple straight out of the box. Again, it's got all the kick up on the underbody. That's really the only heavy weathering I did on these cars. So there's that one, and let me see what else I should grab. I'll grab the BNSF car. This is the BNSF circle logo version. This one is a little bit older, so I modeled it with some different variation in patching. It's got older graffiti. It's got the very badly chipped and faded logos, which is prototypical. I just modeled that with some oil paint and bleeded that logo out a little bit. Got all the rust streaks, new safety striping, lots of grime on the tracks, weathered up the panels quite a bit with some streaks, and then you can see all that very old graffiti. And then the beat up logo on this end. And then on the top here you got a lot of scraping and a lot of pitting on the roof, but the whole roof has been completely oxidized at this point, so you can see it's actually whited out. And then it's just got some random little chips and stuff and scratches and here and there. On the ends, pretty heavy rust and everything. Pretty normal for that in-service car. And on this side it's got some replaced panels, which is a cool little effect I wanted to try to model. You can see the logos on this side are not as bad, but they are faded a little bit. Overall, I did have to dull down the entire car. I did use a little bit of whitewash to do that, but again, I just completed everything with the graffiti, the patchwork, some rust with the oil effects. You got some little areas that are pretty cool, some areas with some rust spots, just to add some flavor. Again, some crappy graffiti there. The new BNSF patch there, and then just you know, just some other little details just to enhance it, make it look a little bit more realistic. So that's the BNSF car. That one turned out again real good. And I have two more. I'll go ahead and bring in a KCS car. This one was another real fun car. What I did with this one was I whitewashed the entire roof with oil, and then I just kind of chipped it up a little bit and made it look very oxidized, but you could still see some of that shiny metal showing through. And that's something that you see kind of often on these cars. You'll see that detail on the newer ones anyway. Not so much the very old ones, but this one's somewhat newer. And you can see it's again got the prototype graffiti that I chose. It's got the TTX repatch, the new safety striping's been added over that, and it's been re-stenciled, as you can see there. I gotta fix some of that decal film. You can see some of the decal film. I just gotta dull coat that little area there and blend that back in. It's got all the grime on the underbody, nicely weathered trucks, some graffiti again, end detail. And then this side, which has the slightly better graffiti, slightly newer graffiti anyway. You can see it has the PSK tag there, Canis. Just modeled that from photos. They worked around the reporting mark, which is cool, so I modeled that. But the graffiti came out real sick on this one. I'm really happy with that. That came out real awesome. So there's another in-service car, nice modern auto rack. Move that one out of the way, and I'll grab the first Fairmax car I did. This one is pretty sweet. This one has a bare side, and I just wanted to preserve some of this. Not all of these are completely plastered in graffiti yet. You know, some of them are still pretty clean, so I modeled this one Just basically weathered it up with washes and things like that and grime to dirty it up, because these cars have been in service for a few years now and they were getting pretty dirty. I repainted the brake handle on that red because the prototypes have them red. Intermountain didn't paint those. Added the safety striping, the underbody grime as usual. As we go down there, you can see all that grime. It's mainly built up around these support posts that connect to the actual flatbed. That's an area you see a lot of grime streaked down from the panels, from the car body, areas where there's usually a lot of rot, especially on the older cars. But overall, these are very beautiful. I love the Fairmax cars. I think they're real sharp. And I actually have 3 more of these that I got to do, but this is the first one. And then the opposite side has the graffiti, which is the cool part. This one has some kind of crappier graffiti, but it's there on one of the prototypes that I wanted to choose to model, so I added that. It's all hand painted with acrylic again. It's got the repatch area there. But overall, it's not crazy graffiti. It's more just kind of throw up graffiti. And then you got this tag here, some smaller little tags, things like that to complete it. And then you got the rust kind of starting to work down. But other than that, very simple. Not too much done to this. It's just, again, another in-service car, as I like to call them. They're not too complicated weathering-wise, and they'll usually have a little bit of graffiti, maybe some patch variations, things like that. But for the most part, these all really just kind of weather the same. The only real variations you'll see is the graffiti variation. So that's the first Fairmax car I did. And like I said, I got a couple more I got to do with those, and I have some BNSF versions. Now, the last one is the big project car, and it's this one here. Now, this car took many hours to do. This was a very hard car to do, and I actually filmed the entire process, and this will be coming in a how-to weathering video very soon, because a lot of people were asking me how to weather these Intermountain racks, and I will be showing you guys how I did this exact car very soon, so you guys can look out for that. But in the meantime, it's the UP TTGX 912069. So out of the box, it's just a UP car. I completely faded it down, rusted up the panels. I did all of the prototype graffiti. Well, I basically picked the graffiti off of 2 different prototypes because I didn't have the exact number, unfortunately. I hand painted the graffiti, added all the tags, rusted up the panels, got your rust pits, the very heavily faded Union Pacific logo. I repainted the top part of the logo and then the bottom so it's completely whited out with oil, and then rusted over that. And then again, you can see all the very nice graffiti. The part that was re-stenciled was just spray painted over. That's the thing you see a lot of times. They just hurriedly repaint that when it gets covered up with graffiti. And then just a lot of rust spots, some pits, some patches of rust on the panel portions. Very beat up there, as you can see. The roof is very rusty on this. It's been absolutely abused. And you can see the 2 different colors of oil I used. I used the burnt umber and then the raw sienna to go back and forth and do the brighter and darker rust effects. On the ends, you got the tons and tons of rust pitting, kick-up spray. It's all done with oils, and again, I'll show you guys in the video coming up how I did all this, but it's actually not too difficult. It's just a matter of oil rendering. And then on this side, you got a little bit simpler graffiti, but again, it's there on another prototype, so I just pulled it off the photos, copied it from my model, and then you can see you got the very faded TTGX original patch there starting to chip away. Again, the Union Pacific logo is beat up, chipping away. You got the rust pits. As you work down the side of the car, you can see you got a lot of rust. In this patch here, this little patch area is what I was talking about. You get a lot of older cars that get this rust buildup at the base. So I was trying to really model that and focus on that attention on this car. And you can see again too, it also has lots of mud splatter on the ends. So this was the big project car. This one took a very long time to do, and I'm very happy with it. So you guys can keep an eye out for the video. It'll be pretty soon that I'll have that uploaded, and it's actually the first style of video I've done where I actually basically audio over it and explain how I'm doing it. So it's basically me talking about how I did it in hindsight. So it should be an interesting style of video. It'll be up here pretty soon. So that's the UP auto wreck I did. Alright guys, I'll wrap this video up real quick with a project car I've been working on for the last week. Currently Athearn is doing a photo contest on some of the cars that they're offering in the Ready to Roll line in their Patch for Grime series, and one of them is this Golden Triangle Railroad box car. This is again one of their newer release of cars. I wasn't trying to enter this contest, but basically I was given this car to do just specifically to take pictures of for the contest. So it's actually a car that was given to me for free, and I was like, well, you know, what the hell, see what I can do with it. So what I did was I copied prototype photos of the graffiti. I just basically did some work out of the box. Again, it's a prime for grime car, so all I had to do was adjust the patching a little bit and then do all the weathering. But for the most part, the car out of the box had the pre-faded paint. All I really had to do here was use some rust washes to dull down the sides and then make them look a lot more rusty. Like I said, adjusted the patching a little bit. Out of the box, it's not 100% accurate, especially on the opposite side and the one end, which I'll show. So I added all the little small custom tagging. I added this larger tag here, painted the tack boards, added the little torn off sticker decals. Those are the little barcodes for the load. The door's nicely rusted up. You got some small tagging based on prototype photos, and then you got this piece of graffiti here. You got the new patching, and then the new data has been stenciled on there. You got the safety striping over everything. You got some nice rust streaks and stuff. Put the safety striping under the door there. On the Golden Triangle Railroad decals here on the car side, in real life they should be slightly over, but again, this is something Athearn screwed up when they did this car. But because I'm trying to keep this model as factory original as possible for the photo contest, I decided not to change that. So I just rusted it how it appeared on the photos. It's got all these little rust pits that are starting to rust over, and you can see I just did that with some oil paint, blended it out. It's a lot heavier on the opposite side, but that's the first side of this one. The roof came out pretty good, pretty much my standard weathering job. Basically did this with acrylic first, did the pitting effect, then I went back with the rust, burnt umber washes and stuff like that, and then I did the sealant, which is the gray paint. I did some splatter techniques for that, enhanced all that. It's kind of spilling down the side on the top of the roof there, which is pretty neat. On the end, pretty standard. You got the, again, factory patching, and I just weathered everything up nicely. This end has some really cool patching based on prototype photos. I just repainted this whole portion on the underbody as long as on the sides as well. Again, that's from prototype photos. That was something Athearn missed on this car. And then on the opposite side, I had to also do the patching there as well on the corner, so I just copied that from the photos, added that with the factory patching, and then I again did the graffiti. And then this side has a lot more rust pitting, which I did with oil rendering techniques. Just built that up in layers. It's got some unique door patching, the really cool door graffiti. This corner is a lot more pitted on that seam, so I just added that with some acrylic and then oil. And then again, the logo's pretty beat up on this side with all the pitting and streaking and everything. It's got the crappy piece of graffiti there. I just copied that from a photo. And then I got, again, the patchwork there. And I added some little decals and stuff based on where they were on the prototype photos. I added the safety stripes again. So that is one of my cool little contest model cars. I've never really done anything like this before, but that's going to be my attempt at. So I'm going to be putting some pictures up of this, sending them to Athearn too, and well, I guess we'll see if we win the contest. But that was something I thought would be cool to kind of wrap this video up with, is this car. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I might keep it, I might sell it. We'll see what happens. We'll just kind of see how the contest goes, if I win or not. Either way, I'll figure out what to do with it eventually. So if I sell it, then you guys will be able to kind of keep an eye out for it, and I'll let you guys know if I do or not. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this video for now. I got another one in here pretty soon. I got a lot of overflow projects to show off, so I'll have another update coming pretty soon. Hopefully you guys subscribe on YouTube here. Be sure to follow my work on Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook page is Dan's Custom Trains, and my Instagram is Danny Dankinson. All that is lowercase, so you guys can follow me there to see what kind of work I'm doing. And again, like I said, subscribe here on YouTube for more content. Until next time, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.